Hey, Honors Algebra 2, how's everybody doing? I'm not here today, as you can tell by my not being here, but I'm here with you through the interwebs. And so enjoy this, and any YouTube visitors, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're here. I feel bad for you already. Hey, so here's what we're going to do today, class. I'm gone. You have a guest teacher here who is going to be very helpful to you. Should you have questions, just raise your hand and seek out that help. If you're in table groups, you obviously can work together, and that'll be fine and dandy. But what we're going to do today is just a quick little video lesson that will sort of add on to the work that you've done all week with factoring. All that we're going to do is now set our factored expression equal to 0, and that will help us solve a quadratic equation using the factoring method. We're going to learn about 5 or 6 different methods for solving quadratic equations, but this one that we're going to focus on today and on your weekend assignment due Monday is to solve quadratic equations by factoring. So I'm just going to steal example 1 from the textbook, and you can follow along if you'd like to. We're in section 5.5, example 1, and that's all that we're going to focus on. And you're going to have the rest of the block to work. It's going to be a happy day. You're going to do great. We start off with the zero product property. The zero product property states that if any product, A times B equals 0, then that means that each of the factors is equal to 0, or could equal 0. So A could equal 0, or B could equal 0, but one of them or both of them has to equal 0. And that will tell us what the possible solutions are to our equation. When we are looking at a quadratic equation in factored form, if we have one factor multiplied by another equals 0, then this binomial could equal 0, or the second binomial could equal 0. We solve each of those separately, and that tells us our 2 possible answers for what x could be, our solutions. Now, what's interesting about this is you're used to finding x equals a certain number. X equals 12, x equals -2. Here you're going to have x could equal one number and another number for the same equation. It has 2 possible solutions. If it's x squared, you could have no solutions, 1 solution, or 2 solutions. All right, and we'll chat a bit more about that in coming days. But let's follow this example, example 1 in your textbooks. I gave you enough time. Hopefully you found it. This says to solve the quadratic equation 2x squared minus 11x is equal to -15. Well, already it's a little messed up because we have this constant on the wrong side of the equation. We need to make sure that we have a quadratic equation set up in standard form first so that we can factor it. So we need ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If it equals 0, then we can use our zero product property. Hooray. So let's go ahead and solve this equation by first adding 11 to both sides. Not 11, adding 15 to both sides. Now our equation is in standard form. We can easily factor the left-hand side. We multiply 2 times 15. That gives us a product of positive 30. We need factors of 30 whose sum is negative 11. All right, so I'm talking about 2 negative numbers here. A negative times a negative could give us a positive. A negative plus a negative will give us a negative number. So factors of 30 that add up to 11 would be 6 and 5. So factors of 30 that add up to negative 11 would be negative 6 and negative 5. So those are the 2 numbers that we're going to use to help us factor this quadratic equation. Stay tuned. We should be reminded that when we have a negative factor, that we should write it as adding the negative factor instead of a minus sign here. That caused some trouble with our factoring, so we have to be careful to make sure that this middle sign is a plus sign. We group them and factor them separately, finding the GCF in each pair. We recognize that both of them have an x minus 3 that will factor. All right, so we have that factored. We have 2x minus 5 multiplied by x minus 3 is equal to 0. This now will let us create two separate equations. Watch again. A times b equals 0. That means A equals 0 or B equals 0, or they're both 0. So what we'll do is we'll solve both equations, 2x minus 5 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. One solution is x equals 5 halves. The other solution is x equals 3. Hooray, we're done. We just solved the equation 2x squared minus 11x is equal to negative 15. In order to do that, we got it into standard form, we factored the left side, we set those two factors, those two binomial factors, each equal to 0, and solved those equations separately to get our two solutions. X equals 5 halves and x equals 3. Now we will stop the camera, if I can. Stop it.